When you think of AMGs, the first car that comes to mind is probably the C63, or well, if you ask me anyway. It's got crazy amounts of power and that deep V8 growl is just the perfect recipe to get your blood boiling. And that's why it's also widely regarded as the AMG. But you see, today's C63 is a very different car. Instead of the V8, it's now got a 4-cylinder hybrid engine. And the car itself has also grown by quite a bit in its size and, more importantly, its weight. So, should it still be the AMG? Well, I think I've got the better answer. This is obviously not a C63, but if you ask me, it's actually not as different as you think. The CLA45S here still has a fairly traditional 3-box silhouette, even though we're supposed to call it a 4-door coupe now. And in fact, it's actually not too far away in size to the W204 C63 that we all know and love. More importantly, it still looks just as angry as an AMG should, especially with the iconic Panamericana grille, the massive air intakes, the aerodynamic flicks around the side, and if you go to the back, there's also the massive ducktail spoiler that just looks so damn good, and the blacked out diffuser elements at the bottom, plus the quad tailpipe exit. Wait, did I say quad exhaust tailpipes? Well... Aside from that little blemish, this second generation CLA really just looks so much better than its predecessor. All of its lines look like they're supposed to be here, which means overall the car just looks a lot more proportionate and a lot more cohesive than before. If you ask me, this is exactly how a car like the CLA should look like. And I think that is also the reason why its designers basically didn't bother changing anything up for this facelift update. I mean, why mess with perfection, right? The only changes here on the outside come in the form of the new AMG emblem on the bonnet, as well as new light signatures for both the front and tail lights. The ones in the headlights are now more angular than before, giving this car a bit more of an aggressive edge. And if you look closely, it's actually more of an outline rather than a thick solid line, giving it a very unique, very unmistakable look, and I think it looks really good. The wheels though, I think they probably could have done a better job here because this just sort of looks like a starfish or something, and for some reason the door handles still have the chrome accents on top of them, even though everything else on this car, like these window surrounds over here, are all blacked out. But at least when you open the doors to head inside, you know that this car means business because, frameless windows. By the way, speaking of wheels, we've also upgraded our tyres on this car to Continental's latest Sport Contact 7 UUHP tyres. We'll talk more about that later in the video, but for now, let's go check out the interior. There's also not too many changes on the inside, which I think is a good thing because this cabin here is already a very nice place to be in. It's inherited from the A-Class, so everything here feels very familiar, including the same great outward visibility thanks to the low bonnet and the low belt lines on the side. And of course, there's also the same dashboard design. This being an AMG model, there are of course a couple of AMG touches all around the interior, like the decals on the dashboard trims, these buttons and knobs on the steering wheel for quick access to your drive settings, the Alcantara wrap around the steering wheel, rear seat belts, and of course the special displays up on the screens on the dashboard. The MBUX system has also been updated with new display styles on the instrument cluster, an updated telematics systems, and finally wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that actually covers the entire screen. What I like the best in here though are these AMG performance seats. They're wrapped in this very nice looking black and red microfiber and leather combination upholstery, and not only do they give you great lateral support through these side bolsters, they're also surprisingly comfortable too, even on longer journeys. And even though they do look kind of like bucket seats, they actually offer a lot of adjustability as well, from your side bolsters to even lumbar support. Yes, you do have to adjust everything through the screens, and well, I think it can look a little bit suggestive to some people, but I think that's still fine because you usually only be adjusting your seats before you drive off anyway. What's not fine though is that they've now removed this touchpad here on the center console, so if you want to adjust anything on the screen, you have to either do it through this tiny capacitive touchpad on the steering wheel or use the screen itself, which number one is not only more difficult to do when you're driving, or number two, if you put your hands here to balance yourself, just take a look at my trim over here. At least there's still a bank of physical buttons for your climate control, and the air vents also light up in blue or red as a visual cue telling you if you've made it colder or hotter, so it's a lot more convenient to adjust your aircon while driving. If there's one thing every car maker should copy, it's this. If you want to use this as an actual car, well, you do get quite usable space in terms of your leg room and knee room. And headroom is actually pretty great too, as long as you're under 175 cm tall. As for shoulder room though, well, I think it's best to describe this car as a 4-seater car rather than a 5-seater. That said, it is genuinely comfortable back here thanks to how these seats are contoured. I only have one complaint though, and it is that the seat base here can be a little bit too flat, so when you're seated properly, you can feel like your legs are just hanging in mid-air. Now, because of these sporty seats in front, your view out the front from the back seats isn't the greatest. And when you couple that to the tall belt line on the sides and the sloping roofline, you can actually get a little bit claustrophobic inside here. But at least you do get a pretty large panoramic glass roof up here to make it feel a little bit more airier. Aside from the glass roof, the back seats here also come with a couple of modern amenities like your aircon vents and a single USB-C charging port. It really isn't a bad place to be in, even for longer journeys. What makes this an even better family car is the fact that this boot here is actually bigger than that of the C-Class. This here is 460 liters of space, and it's actually pretty square and long too, so all of that space is actually very usable. And if you need even more space, you can just always knock down the rear seats with these two handles over here. Well, I know, you're all here for a reason, so let's not waste any more time and just cut straight to the chase. There's no way you can talk about this car without first starting with its main party piece, that magnificent engine in front of me. Yes, it's only a 2-litre and yes, it's only 4 cylinders, but when it makes 421 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque, I mean, who freaking cares? What makes this engine special is not just that it's one of the most powerful 2-litre 4-cylinder engine currently in production, but it's also that there's almost zero turbo lag throughout the entire rev range. And the incredible performance isn't as simple as just dropping in a new engine and calling it a day. The entire front end of the car had to be essentially redesigned in order to fit that much more power, from more strengthening components to even flipping the entire layout by 180 degrees to maximize cooling. And when you pair it to the super responsive 8-speed DCT gearbox, all you really have to do is just pin your foot down on the accelerator and the car will pick up and go, muscling its way to unspeakable speeds even before you wrap your brain around it. In fact, this car here will do the century sprint in just under 4 seconds. That's pretty much baby supercar stuff. And the CLA45S doesn't just let you have fun on the straight roads, because when you flick this switch here into Sports or the Sports Plus mode, well, it's almost like you've just awoken a beast with a louder exhaust note and the exhaust crackle, a rabid beast that is ready to attack and conquer every single corner that you come across. Switching to Sports mode is really like turning your volume knob up to 11, because everything in here just feels more visceral and more dramatic. The steering tightens up, your throttle response is more reactive, and even the gear shifts are more fun too, with the double declutching giving you a kick every time you hit the downshift pedal. The special sauce here is how the car distributes its power through the all-wheel drive system depending on your driving mode. The sportier your drive mode is, the more slip angle the car will let you do, all the way up until race mode, which Mercedes-Benz says should only be used in a racetrack. But I think that's actually for good reason, because you'll be surprised at how much oversteer you can get in an all-wheel drive car. And the best part, well, you'll always still have the all-wheel drive system to hold your hand when you get a little bit too crazy. And with the right set of tyres, like the Continental Sport Contact 7 that we have here on our CLA45S, the car just becomes so natural, so playful, yet so matured around the bends. The Continental Sport Contact 7's outstanding performance is courtesy of its new adaptive pattern that lets the tyres conform to all driving conditions, with deep aqua channels and unique shoulder sipes to maximize water dissipation in the wet, and interlocking tread design to increase vehicle stability and steering response in the dry. The harmonized black chili tree ultra sticky compound ensures long-lasting performance without sacrificing on performance, while the force clustering design means you'll still get the same optimum performance no matter what car you drive. On the CLA45S, the Continental Sport Contact 7 gives me more confidence on turn-in, with a linear steering response and, more importantly, just so much grip in high-speed corners, even in the wet. With multiple wins across professional tyre tests worldwide, the Continental Sport Contact 7 is truly in a league of its own. Find out more on AutoBuzz.my or visit your nearest Continental tyre dealership to experience it for yourself. I've always said that I like cars that wants to play with you, that wants to dance with you through the back roads, and it really does feel like that in this car. Now, of course, it's never as crazy as its hooligan ancestors, those big power rear-wheel drive drift machines, but man, is it ever still fun to drive this car. If I have one advice though, well, it's to just leave the car in the comfort suspension setting. It's really firm enough for basically everything you want to do on the public roads, and well, here's a hot take. I think a little bit of body roll does actually make the car a bit more fun to drive. And there's one thing above all else that makes this a true AMG, and it's the fact that you can do this. Woohoo! This is crazy! So, what is an AMG? Now, if you look back at the C63 that we were talking about, at its core, an AMG really is just a Mercedes-Benz, but one with a lot more power and one with a lot more fun. And it really can just be as simple as that. Now, this year, well, this is pretty much as simple as it gets today, and I think it's just as much fun. And that's why this year is probably the rightful successor to the legacy that was created by that C63 that we all know and love. Now, if you want to try it out yourself, why not drop by Cycle and Carriage Bintang Petaling Jaya, where you'll find one of the only few dedicated AMG show floors across the country. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to click on the like button and of course subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Now, of course, that little bell icon will also let you know whenever we upload a new video. I'm Woon, and I'll see you in the next one.